Rupa Huq, Labour Party MP and OSCE election observer, thanks for joining us on BBC News. Now, you're speaking to us from Detroit, Michigan, one of these swing states that we've been talking so much about for the last few weeks. And you've been there in your role as an election observer for the OSCE. We had heard a lot of talk about the integrity and security of this election process and whether it perhaps might be threatened in some way. From your observation of the election, the campaign and how it's proceeded, what are your observations?
Yeah, so look, it's an additional role I have as well as being an MP that I do election observation for the Organisation of Security and Cooperation in Europe. And I've done this in all over the world. Last year was Poland, Turkey twice because they had 2 rounds of it. So I jumped at the chance of observing the US election, particularly, as you say, Katrina, there's been stuff in the news that opinion polling shows a lot of the American public don't have faith in the system. So I was with a team of, I think, 150 of us from all over the world. And from what I saw, it was a fair fight, a clean fight. So the whole of yesterday, it was a very long day. We started from the opening of the polls in Detroit, and we went all around the state. It's a big place, 10 million people, so bigger than some countries. And we had a sort of list of things that we had to observe about: was there intimidation? Was there campaigning inside the polling station? What was the atmosphere like? And on the whole, I saw it calm and smooth. And we're waking up to the results today. Well, in fact, it's midday here, more than midday at the moment. But yes, I think democracy is alive and well in the US from what I've seen.
Now, the polls are still being counted in Michigan. Was it surprising to you just how different the system is here in the US compared to what people would be used to in the UK and how quickly you get the results?
Yeah, I've done 4 general elections now as an MP in the UK, and usually we hand count it. It's done in a couple of hours. Here, actually, it wasn't not just the presidential election being voted for. There were all sorts of other things. They were voting for a sheriff. They were voting for school boards. That's an elected thing, as well as both houses of their Congress and Senate. Yeah, and it's still being, actually, in some ways it's more efficient because they make a mark on a paper, and rather like, if you remember the optical mark reader we used to have at school with multiple choice, it gets read electronically. But this time around, there was a lot of early voting. Apparently 40% of people in Detroit, where I am now, early voted. So they did that to avoid the stampedes that we've seen in earlier years. So just sort of collating the whole lot, and it is a big population. It's not quite final yet. I'd be curious to know who won the Senate race, because we, the observation team and I, went to see a couple of rallies, and we heard the senators, and we actually heard both the vice presidential candidates. So it's a bit of a cliffhanger for me. I really want to know what happened.
And obviously, in your role as an OSCE observer, you're there in an independent capacity, but you are also an MP for the Labour Party. We saw pretty quickly after the result was declared, Sir Keir Starmer, your leader, the Prime Minister, issuing a notice of congratulations to Donald Trump. What's it going to mean now for the UK-US relationship? How is the UK going to approach a second term of Donald Trump?
Yeah, I mean, we've always had this very strong special relationship, no matter whether it's a Republican or Democrat president. So I feel that is in safe hands. And again, there's lots of big international issues. I think actually, from what I can work out, this election was largely on the domestic scene, on things like cost of living. But we've got 2 very major wars raging at the moment. The Ukraine war is the biggest land war in Europe seen in many, many decades, and obviously Israel, Gaza as well. I haven't checked out the detail of the policies, but usually the UK and the US fairly close on some of these big international issues. I think, yeah, it remains to be seen. I didn't follow too much of what was in the manifestos, but I think the special relationship is alive and well.
Okay, Rupa Huq, Labour Party MP and OSCE election observer. Thanks for joining us on BBC News.
Thank you.